Alright, so we're about to change the oil on a 2010 Rav4. You're probably wondering, why do I need to watch a YouTube video? And an oil change is usually pretty easy. You know, that's what I thought, but the last time I went to change a car's oil, I was in for a rude awakening because there's a different type of oil filter in here that I couldn't figure it out. I had to go buy special parts for it. It was a disaster. So I put this video together for those of you that have probably already gotten underneath the car and realized there's something not right. And I'll walk you through how to conduct the oil change. It's pretty basic, except for the tool you're going to need. There's a specialized tool, and the oil's a little different. So let's take a look. The car's now been jacked up, and I've got all my tools ready to go. And I'm pretty lucky because my driveway has a weird dip in it, so I'm able to actually jack up the car while keeping it relatively level so that I can get the most amount of oil out of it. Not to get too technical, but I got the tire backed up against the edge of the garage there with a brick underneath it on both sides of the car to keep it up. And like I said, the driveway's got a dip in it, so the car is relatively level. And when you jack up the car, you can use a floor jack to lift your car, but if you ever read the instructions on your floor jack, they always tell you not to use the floor jack as the only way to hold your car up, or you'll crush yourself and die, and all your guts will come out of your butt, and your kids will find you dead underneath the car. So what I've done is I'm actually using some jack stands. It's kind of hard to see down there, but I've got a pair of jack stands beneath the car, and that's just to prevent me from dying and getting crushed. Since this video is for a specific car, I'm going to kind of walk you through the tools. The motor oil you're supposed to use is a 5W20, and you need 4.2 quarts, very specific. I actually mark a line here. It's not science, but that's 4.2 quarts. Anything beneath that is to the 5th quart that's in this container here. So 4.2 quarts. You're also going to need the oil filter. Toyota Rav4 doesn't use a regular human oil filter. They actually have a cartridge insert. And this is what drove me crazy the last time I tried to do this oil change. So I'm going to show you how to use these. You're also going to get some O-rings that you absolutely need. And you're going to get this weird little tool here. And I'll show you how to use that also. You're going to need a 14mm socket to take the oil pan drain plug out. This tool here is to take off the cartridge oil filter. I had to buy this from the Toyota dealership. They actually make one aftermarket you could buy at like an AutoZone, but it didn't work. I had to go back and go to the Toyota dealership and get the correct one, and the Toyota offers 2 different sizes. Make sure you get the right one. This is going to take off the oil cartridge so we can replace the oil filter. I'm also going to need a big crescent wrench. That's to work on this guy here, to take this guy off. The last thing you're going to need is be a oil drain pan. Alright, so we're ready to take off the oil drain plug here. Again, it's a 14mm, and don't use a standard. You want to use a correct size. Righty tighty, lefty loosey. I'm going to go and loosen it off. Now here's the thing. Engine oil is about 250 degrees. A hot cup of coffee is about 190. So you may want to let this cool off a little bit. My oil pan has a little grate in it, so I usually just take this thing out and jump out of the way. It won't give you severe burns, but it'll hurt like hell if you get it on your fingers. Alright, so there we go. We're going to let that drain out. Now I haven't removed the filler cap from the top of the oil and the top of the engine yet, because once you take that off, it's going to just flow. So I typically let it drain out like this for a little while. Once the trickle slows down, then I'll take off the cap from the oil on the top of the engine, the oil fill cap, so it'll get all of it out of there. So I typically let this thing go till it's just dripping. Takes about 5, maybe 6 minutes for that. For the sake of keeping us moving, I'm just going to go ahead and plug it now. We've got like 90% of the oil out of the engine so far. Just going to go ahead and plug that up here. Give it a little clean. All right, then we're going to tighten it back on with our socket.
You got a jack, Mark?
I got it, man. And we just want to hand tighten. We don't want to go too tight. And there it is. Alright, so what you're looking at underneath there, that would be what was normally the oil filter. And now it's got this odd looking cartridge thing. And that thing is a scourge of my life. That's what we're going to be taking off right now. So this guy here is just a cap. And we're going to take him off. He's got this little square inside of him. And fortunately for me, that little square actually fits my ratchet. So if I insert my ratchet here, I can actually just twist him off. Just like that. Now you might get a couple of drops of oil out of that. That's not really the way it's designed. This is just a cap that covers a spout that's in here. There is a lot of oil inside of this guy, and I'm going to show you how to drain that out. Right now I just got a couple of drops out of it. So this funky tool that we got with our oil filter, this is where this guy comes into play. You can actually screw him in to the threads here. We're rich. Alright, we've got it drained out, and we are now ready to remove that bad boy. And how we're going to do that is going to be with the tool that I told you I purchased. So this cap's going to just kind of slide over. It's going to sit snug on there. It's going to be kind of tough to take off once we get it on there. It's going to be kind of tight, but that's what we want so that we don't strip out the actual cartridge in here. So we're going to go ahead and seat our crescent wrench. This thing's made out of aluminum, so you can scar it pretty easily. This way to remove him. Now, when I first went to take this thing off, it was put on by RoboCop, and I had a hell of a time getting it off. It was so tight. Fortunately, when I put it back on, I didn't get crazy with it like the previous person. And you will get some dripping when you take this thing off. So you're going to make a mess again. It'll twist right off and slide right out. We've officially reached the most important part of this video, and if you don't pay attention to anything else, you want to pay attention here, because this is where I made my mistake last time, and I actually didn't put an O-ring on correctly, and my wife drove down the road, and I knew where she went because she left a line of oil in the street. It also shattered her faith in my ability to do oil changes. So this is the cartridge that we just pulled out, and this is the old filter in here. Just pull that guy out there, and here's the inside of the cartridge, and this is going to be discarded. And inside of here we got all of our grime and all the gross stuff. We're actually going to clean him out. This is all the stuff that is collecting in here from your engine compartment. So we're going to go and stick something in there. I'm going to get that stuff out, because what will happen is sediment that's in here will actually start to collect in your new oil filter. I'm going to wipe down this housing, get it nice and clean, because the next part I'm going to show you is very important. Like I said before, there's an O-ring right here. You see this guy? When I first did my oil change, I actually put the O-ring down here like a knucklehead. I put it in the wrong spot. I didn't pay attention. So you want to pay attention where this O-ring is currently at. And that's where we're going to put the new O-ring that came in our packaging. These are the new O-rings we got from the store when we bought our filter. And so what we're going to do is we're going to take off the old O-ring, this guy here. I'm just going to roll him off. And you don't want to reuse O-rings. This guy's pretty old already. He's a little brittle. So he's going away. Here's a brand new O-ring. They say you want to get him a little dirty with oil. Put a little bit of oil on him before you put him back on. So we're going to go ahead and just work him back on. You want to be careful with these things because they're not indestructible. I actually busted one once. And he's going to go right back into position here. Where we took off the old one. Again, that's extremely important. I've seen other videos on YouTube where they show you how to do this, and they talk about making sure you put that O-ring in the right spot, but they don't explain to you the importance of that. The other O-ring is going to go underneath here, and this is where we're going to get this cap off here. And like I said before, when you get this thing off, it's really hard to take off just because it seats so well. So we're going to pull this cap off. Ah, finally. Alright, so in here is a second O-ring. See this guy in here? This one's not mission like critical. Like the space shuttle could still come back into the Earth's atmosphere by using an old one. But they give you a new one. We want to use him. I'm going to clean him out. I'm going to take the O-ring we got from our kit. I'm going to put him in here too. Just like that. This one's kind of odd because he doesn't really want to fit in there correctly. But that's where he goes. Just going to work him in. And once we get him back in like that, just take a little bit of oil, moisten him a little bit, and we can put this guy back on. Remember, this is the thing that we took off originally so that we were able to access the spout that we added. And we just want to hand tighten this guy on. Don't want it to be too tight. Just a little bit of tightness. That's all we need. If not, we'll pinch up the O-ring in there. It'll come out the side like a hemorrhoid. We don't want that to happen. Okay, next step is we're going to take the replacement cartridge and we're just going to set him in there. Now, there's not really a way he has to go in there. I typically just put him in with the wording upwards, like this. You know, you could do it however you want, but that's the way I prefer to do it. So we're going to fill this filter up with some oil. The point is you don't want the filter to be dry when you start the car, because that could be bad. So we're just going to go ahead and drench this guy with oil, so that when we start the car isn't dry while this filter fills up. Just want to coat him. You're making a cinnamon roll. Alright. Now we're ready to reinsert that filter back into the engine compartment. Alright, so on this part here, you're going to have to kind of be a little careful because it's going to spill all over the place while you're trying to put it back in. You basically want to sit him back in his threads and not cross thread it. You're going to drip a little bit of oil, so make sure you got something to catch it. You're just going to hand thread him back on. We don't want to force it. It's plastic and aluminum, and we're going to hand thread it till it gets hand tight. Once we get to that point, I'm going to wipe up any excess oil because I'm going to test this puppy out to make sure it doesn't leak. And if there's oil dripping off the pan or around this opening here, I'm going to think that I did something wrong. Alright, so we got that back on. I'm going to take our trusty tool, I'm going to set him on top, and I'm not going to go all the way in because I want to get it stuck again. Alright, and then we're going to tighten it back up. Just like this. And we don't want to go too crazy because if you hear a pop when you're doing this, you popped your gasket. Then you got to go back to AutoZone. You got to ask for another gasket, which you probably have to buy a whole other filter because you messed it up.
Come back there and hit you on the head with a tack hammer because you're a retard. Okay,
Right.
and life preserver.
That seems about right there. You know, we got to fight to get this thing off. There we go. Alright, we're ready to refill now with the rest of the 4.2 quarts. I would recommend you use a funnel when you're filling your engine back up again so you don't spill it all over the exhaust manifold and make smoke all the way down the road. When you go to the funnel store though, ask them for a real funnel. This is probably something you would see like in a dolly set. So, not very cool. It doesn't really sit in here correctly either, so it's going to be a little bit of a interesting experience to put the oil back in. And once again, we're going to 4.2 quarts. This thing has 5 quarts in it, so we're only going to go and leave 0.8 quart in there still. And I've marked it because I'm silly, and I want to make sure that I know I'm putting the right amount of oil in here. And we're looking like we're right where we need to be. So I'm only going to use 4 quarts right now, not 4.8. I'm actually going to power the car, turn it on, run the engine for a little bit, turn off the car, and then check it again just to see where I'm at. Alright, so now that I ran it for a couple minutes, I'm going to go ahead and turn the engine off. We're going to check the dipstick again. I'm going to find out how much oil we actually have in it now that it's cycled through the oil pump. And our reading is about center here, which tells me we could probably add about another, probably about 1/10 of a quart or so. Now that we changed the oil, we have to reset the indicator light in the dashboard. It says maintenance required. My father-in-law calls that the idiot light, and because he's a Hispanic, he says idiot light, just like my grandmother does. What we're going to do is we're going to insert the key. We're going to turn the engine on a little bit here, and we're going to go to trip A. Trip A. Once you see trip A, we're going to shut it back off again. Hold the button down. Then you're going to turn the engine as if you're turning it on. And you're going to wait for those little lights there to stop blinking. Now it's at 0. You've now successfully reset the engine oil counter, so that light will go on every 5,000 miles. That's an indication that it's time to change your oil. Break yourself, fool!